I have a bit of a problem. Castlevania Belmont's Curse releases in about 2 months, and having only beat 3 Castlevania games in my life, I took on the daunting task of streaming playthrough of pretty much every Castlevania game. I'm calling it the Castlevania Bald Guy Challenge. Uh, in order to make this achievable in the roughly 3 months when I decided to do it, I decided to avoid remakes or remasters. Uh, the only one that I notably kept in is Castlevania 4. Uh, it did mean that I excluded games such as Haunted Castle or Vampire Killer. I'm about a month in, and I admit that I'm a bit behind recording this. We've completed 7 8-bit games, including NES games and Game Boy games, and 2 out of 3 16-bit games. We're going through Rondo of Blood, Bloodlines, and Super Castlevania 4. I'm avoiding Dracula X Chronicles, and I'm avoiding Dracula X, just because, I mean, they're all basically Rondo of Blood, a little different, rearranged, whatever you want to call it. As I got further into the NES games, I thought, hey, maybe I should make a tier list that would also act as a bit of a pros and cons tracker for each game. Without further ado, here is that list. Hey, wait a minute. Aren't you going to explain why it's called the Bald Guy Challenge? Called it the Bald Guy Challenge because if I can't finish these games before Belmont's Curse is out, I'll be shaving my head and buying Belmont's Curse for a randomly selected viewer who's present on the last stream before Belmont's Curse releases. That means making my way through 15 more games. See, I even have a little tracker that shows me how many real-time days I have left to complete them. We're just about to get into Metroidvanias, and I'm expecting those to take a little longer than the Classicvanias. Before I was beating each Classicvania roughly about 1 to 2 streams per game. I'm expecting the Metroidvanias to take closer to 2 to 3 streams. Let's get into the tier list. Castlevania 8-bit tier list. Right? So what's that? I'm imagining that this down here is Castlevania 3. I'm just going to reorder them. We didn't play Game Boy Kid Dracula. Is that a completely different game? Because we played this one. The like Famicom Kid Drac, which was actually a really good game. I really enjoyed it. 1, 2, Adventure, Adventure 2, and Legends. Dracula's Curse, Simon's, or, whatchamacallit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. This really doesn't seem too bad now that I actually have, like, a consistent time to stream stuff. And most of these games aren't too, well, they're gonna get longer, I guess, right? When we get into Curse of Darkness and Lament of Innocence and Lords of Shadow and stuff. 8-bit tier list, right? Like I said, we're on game... We'll be starting game 9. We played them a bit out of order. We ended up playing Castlevania 4. Didn't really think about it. Yeah, I think the Classicvanias are gonna be a lot... I mean, they're a lot faster. Actually, sort of. But I think, like, Symphony of the Night, I've played it so many times, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a single-sitting game, or close to. Depending on like how much I'm gonna do for map completion. If I just try and run through the story, I'm pretty sure I can do that in one shot. I just don't know about some of the other games, because like, I haven't played any of the PS2 ones. Classic. We start with Kid Dracula. I'm putting Kid Dracula in an A. As much as it kind of frustrated me towards the end, it is so nice for it to be so lighthearted compared to like literally every other Castlevania game. I don't even know if you'd classify it as a Castlevania, but it's included in the collection, so... And it's included in this tier list, so I'm gonna include it. I don't know what the Game Boy version's like. None of the bosses were particularly difficult. It felt more like a Mega Man game, which was fine. The only boss I think that was actually annoying was the Pharaoh in the like... Egypt level or the desert level. I don't even know what it was supposed to be. There was the pyramids in the background though. Downsides, I don't love platforming like Mario, which, I mean, most of these games are kind of like action platformers. So it was a little bit tedious in a couple points, but I'd say overall, I enjoyed it quite a bit. And even objectively, I think that regardless of the difficulty that I had, the game was still good. There was a couple parts that were a bit difficult, but for the most part, the difficulty was pretty low. I mean, we beat it, what, an hour and a half, 2 hours, basically in one shot? So, I'm gonna leave it at an A. I think I'm also gonna put Castlevania at an A. I don't really have anything bad to say about it, except for like, I don't know, it's an old game. It was the first one in the series. They did basically everything else better in future games. Oh, this might be Vampire Killer. That might be it. Sorry, I got distracted. They did pretty much everything better in other games. I don't feel that there was any section that was necessarily unfair or overly difficult. I'm trying to remember some of the bosses. The first boss was the bat. That was fine. The mummies. Like, I think I remember just getting through most of the bosses no problem except for Dracula. And even that just took a little bit of actual like focus and applying skill. And it wasn't too bad. That said, I definitely did make like really heavy use of the whatever the anniversary collections kind of built-in save states and all that. Even as far as that goes, that was mostly just to avoid the annoyance of checkpoints and all that. As far as actually beating the bosses, playing through the games, like I think Dracula was really the worst part of it. And not even from like again, just from literally a skill issue. I think that one definitely belongs there. I don't know if this is like, I don't really know where to put Simon's Quest. I'm gonna be 100% honest. There's a part of me that wants to put it in C because, no, I think it deserves a B. I don't think Simon's Quest was a bad game, but I think that, like, how are you supposed to beat this game when it came out without any kind of hints or guides or any, like, I know there was like the Nintendo helpline. Did the Nintendo helpline work for this game? Because like there's literally sections where it's like, yeah, you have to kneel for like 5 seconds with one of the crystals in your inventory to like drain a lake so that you can go down to the stairs to find one of the mansions. Like, how are you supposed to find that out? Other than that, it was honestly not difficult. Like, there was no difficulty to it. It didn't feel tedious. It didn't feel difficult. It felt like a solid game to go through. But it was, I don't know, to me it felt so confusing that I don't know how, like, I don't know how you, I don't know. I think that would be the biggest thing. Just navigating the game itself was like the biggest challenge. And even at that point, like, it was kind of almost just boring at that point. The nice part was that I guess we did spend a little bit of time grinding levels, but you didn't really need to. Yeah, it didn't, like, no part of it felt unfair except the trick floors. Like, having to just walk through dungeons and basically just keep throwing holy water to see if I'm gonna fall through a fake floor or not. Didn't love that. Castlevania Adventure, right in the bin. I felt the entire time that I played this game that I had absolutely zero priority over enemies. Like, I would get hit, and before I can even really attack, just whatever iframes I have to recover are just done, over with. I'm getting hit again, dealing with the stupid monsters that shoot orbs out of their face, and when they hit you, you lose your whip power or something, or your whip upgrade or something like that. Like, why would you ever have the whip upgrade tied to damage? The bosses were annoying. The frame rate, at least in the Anniversary Collection, I don't know. Now, this actually might be different if you play it in a different emulator or on hardware. The frame rate for it in the emulator was god-awful. Like, if I never had to play it again, I would be okay with it. I finished it. It was not fun. It was not great. I just wanted it to be done. That said, it was also quick. Belmont's Revenge is actually going in A. Behind Kid Dracula. I think Kid Dracula was, I think I enjoyed Kid Dracula more than Belmont's Revenge. But Belmont's Revenge was really, really good for a Game Boy game. It ran really well. It felt really good to play. The like I think his name's Christopher is the character in Castlevania: The Adventure. Compared to the first game, felt a lot smoother to control. I don't remember if I had jump control. I don't remember. That was the biggest thing with these first two games. Actually, the first 3 games. There's no jump control. Once you committed to it, that was it. Yeah, the 4 stages to go through kind of reminded me of like Mega Man. And I think I had the Plant Castle, the Cloud Castle, or Sky Castle, then 2 other ones. I don't know. I went through them fairly fast. Not a very long game at all. And then you do all that and you end up in Castlevania at the end, where there's another couple stages to go through, and a lot of the game's jumps are hard to control. Yeah, the difficulty spike was crazy. Like the first 4 levels where you're going through different castles, nothing, fine. Getting to like the end of Castlevania and fighting Soleil and Dracula, crazy difficulty spike. But we figured it out and we beat it. Probably one of my favorite Dracula fights so far, actually. He had a very, like, Belmont's Revenge, very distinct pattern that you could follow, and it took a couple tries to nail it down. And then, but once I figured it out, I was able to use it to my advantage and just win. It was, like I said, I would play this game again. Maybe on the Game Boy Color or some kind of remaster so it actually has color, but I would play it again. Castlevania Legends we just played, I'm gonna put that at like, I think I gotta put that at a C. I don't have much good to say, but I also don't have much bad to say. Like, my biggest complaint, so compared to all the other games, this isn't in the collection. So that meant that throughout the entire game, I didn't use any like save states until the very end, and it was to skip the kind of the boss run back to Dracula. Apart from that, all these other games I was able to use like the save state system, which I honestly, I'm not even gonna lie, I kind of abused in some of the games. But with Legends, I didn't have that. So I probably would have had a even worse experience with Adventure and a worse experience with Belmont's Revenge had I not had that accessible to me, sorry. That said, I didn't find the game too bad. I actually enjoyed the music was great. The bosses weren't difficult. I saw some criticism drawn towards the game for the lack of difficulty. I think that's mostly directed at the bosses. Like I said, most of the bosses weren't too bad. Except for Dracula, again. And even then, once I figured it out, it was nothing. Some of the enemies were just damage sponges, even if you had an upgraded whip, taking 4 or 5 hits to kill, kind of annoying. The ropes, I felt I died the most to ropes than anything else. I had to be directly over them and press the button to interact with them, or I just fell to my death. Didn't matter if I was off by like half a pixel, you're dead. Did not love that at all. That's kind of scummy to me. That's like, I liked the little bits of story that they worked in. Even though it was right at the end, I thought it was pretty cool. I liked they had those like trap rooms and trap candles. Pretty unique thing. I don't think I've seen anything like that in the other games so far. Like I said, I've got some good things to say, some bad things to say, but I guess I said I don't have anything bad or good to say about it. I lied. I have plenty of bad things to say about it, but it kind of balance out a few of the good things. I don't want to play this again. Actually, that's not true. I would play this again. Let me check real quick. If there's a Castlevania Legends, like some kind of like fan remake or an actual remake. Also the burning ability. So being able to press the button combination of like A and B and go into like whatever invulnerability like once per life per level, really cool. Unfortunately, that made the most of the bosses like trivial. But I think overall, like that's an okay system. But like I said, I don't know if I'd be interested in playing the Game Boy version again, if that makes sense. Dracula's Curse is going in S. Absolutely in S. This game was absolutely awful. It was probably the most difficult Castlevania that I've played so far, but it had so many options for paths, different paths you can take throughout the game. There's like 3 different characters you can recruit. So like, I think it has, as much as the other games have replayability, Dracula's Curse literally has replayability to see different branching paths that you never saw before. Like, there are stages I didn't play because I didn't go that way. The color palette was beautiful, even compared to the other NES games. The characters were cool. The music was extremely memorable. The levels were extremely memorable. I'm never gonna forget the clock tower or the bell tower. Dracula was a interesting fight. Difficult until I realized what I was able to do with Sypha. And then it became not so difficult. So it wasn't that was the one game where, compared to every other boss in the game, Dracula was actually kind of a pushover. I just had to avoid his attacks. I really enjoyed Dracula's Curse a lot. I think it is definitely a game that I'd play again. It gave me the same feeling as a Dark Souls game of like, it's hard, but it's not hard in a way where I'm like, no, I'm never touching this again. It's like, I know I can beat it. I just have to play well. Yeah, so that's about it for the Game Boy, or for the 8-bit games, I guess then, right? 7 games? I'm gonna save this tier list so we can keep adding to it as we go. I think this has most of the games we're gonna be playing. I'm not gonna be playing Dracula X Chronicles, which is this one. Not Rondo of Blood or no, sorry, not Dracula X or Dracula X Chronicles. Okay, so that's the 8-bit tier list. Once we finish Bloodlines and Rondo of Blood, then I'll update this tier list. We'll go through it again for the 3 16-bit games, I guess you would call them. I think there's only 3 of them. There's Super Castlevania 4, Bloodlines, and Rondo of Blood. I don't really know how to, like... I'm bad at ending YouTube videos. What do I say? Like, oh, that's the end of... That's the end of the 8-bit tier list. We'll do the 16-bit one when we finish the games. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, YouTube.